Hi, this is Gayle. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to be talking about travel today as well as the post-apocalyptic world after demonetization. So as you come on in, don't forget, if you like this chat, make sure you click subscribe and definitely click that bell to get notifications instantly on all the videos. And feel free to join my Facebook group, which is facebook.com Gayle, Gayle, Vlogs, Vlogs. That is my Facebook group. So feel free to join that. So, and of course, feel free to ask questions or whatever. We're going to be talking about pretty much travel or... Hey, Tanya, how are you? We're going to be talking about, travel, demonetization, budgets, trip planning. Vacation season's coming up. Spring break is staring in the face of a lot of people. So we're going to talk about, possible spring break destinations, how you plan your vacation. Tanya, I'm glad you're doing good. I'm glad you're doing good. Hi, Amber and John Homestead. How are you? And not much is up over here. It's just the Thursday travel chat at 3. So I thought we could talk about, some vacation planning and stuff. And also, if anybody wants to fuss about the demonetization that just took effect, we can do that too. Because that stinks. Whoa, I just knocked my computer. Sorry about that. I am at a restaurant out in West Knoxville.
You guys ready?
Yeah, just a second. He'll be right back. That was the server here taking the order. My husband's going to order, but he just disappeared. So anyway, that's where I am, kind of out today. My church is participating in a huge 250,000 tree giveaway in Tennessee. And so we just got our trees today and thought we'd come in for lunch, and it was time for live streaming. So there you go. I figured we could stay on around 45 minutes today. So I hope everybody is doing well. Tanya says, lunch, yummy. Absolutely. And Amber's at home having home-cooked barbecue, which is also pretty darn good. Amber says she's doing okay, which is great. So, on trip planning and vacation, Pet Monster's in the house. Hi, Pet.
Fries okay for you? That's great. All right. I'll pop the same for you. That's great. You want some ranch with the fried mushrooms?
So when you guys are planning a vacation, where do you start planning? Do you start by looking at the map? Do you start by looking at budget? Where do you guys start planning? With me, I always start recommending that you plan, you start with the budget and figure out how you can afford. Yeah, Amber's saying Pet Monster, me and Gayle is meet a couple of times. Tanya says it's budget for her, which is good. Pet says, always look at the plan, where I want to go and budget to that. That's a good way to do it too. Especially if you can plan ahead and look for those vacation deals and start saving up. Definitely, I think if you're going to take an elaborate vacation, you need to start right there where you want to go. And budget considerations also can factor into that. You might want to take an Alaska cruise and then find out you can only go to the next city, depending on your budget. So I think it's important to do both, actually, to have an idea of where you want to go. But if you're looking at kind of a budget travel experience, I think you have to start with the dollars and cents. So roughly decide how much you feel comfortable spending, whether it's $500 or $5,000. Pet says, Monster Chick and I have waited to the last day, showed up at the airport and asked what's on sale, LOL. Had some crazy full fun that way, but admit it's risky. Tanya says, I'm on such a limited income, I have to let budget go first. Pet Monster, I mean, that's valid. It's really kind of hard to do that if you're with a family, but I admire that, and I think that's really cool. And Pet Monster says, when working on a budget, it's always got to make sense. And Amber and John says, I'm trying to go a few places this spring and summer. Congratulations on both of you. I know Tanya's got a really big trip coming up. She's going to get her service dog. And John and Amber, it's always cool to go out. PetSmart, I've got to say, I admire your tenacity to stick with it in case something goes wrong at the airport, and your kind of avant-garde approach. It kind of reminds me, if you've seen any kind of Casey Neistat videos, that's what your approach to travel reminds me of. Because he does a lot of, let's just go to Africa and check out a waterfall, those kinds of things. Which is valid. I think if you do that, though, you better have some plan in case something goes wrong. And Amber and John says, my hopes are going to see my Aunt Joanne in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Good deal. Zumbles Gaming Adventures in. Hi, Gumbles. How are you? Welcome. So, Pat, how did you get the courage to do that the first time? To just go to, hi, John, welcome to the chat. I'm just talking to Pet Monster here. Pet Monster says, it's wild to not know where you're going to wake in the planet for the next day. The backup plan is to always have remote funds, money that you can access but not on you. Tanya says hi, and John and Amber are saying hi to John also. I agree, Pet, because accessibility to those funds is going to be important. I know I planned a trip, and I thought I had planned adequately on having access to funds. I knew it was going to be a little kind of tight for the first couple of days, but what I did was I was going to Alaska the first time. And so the deal was my husband he had to go to a conference before going to Alaska. And so the thing was, I was going to start the trip, and then we were going to, after he got out of the conference, he was going to pick up the rest of the travel check and put it in the bank. The problem was, and I had allotted $300 for in case anything went wrong. Well, the problem was that on a Sunday morning into the trip, my timing belt snapped. Now, before going, and I'll talk about this in a future video, but before going, we had the car checked out 9 ways to Sunday. The oil, the brakes, the packing of the bearings, the water pump, belts, hoses, anything that you could visually check, fluid levels, checking for leaks, all of that done. But you can't see a timing belt. So we we were still in Minnesota. Yes, Amber, it was scary, because the scary part was we were in Minnesota. They actually had to tow us to Fargo. And Pet Monster says that cars are like kids. You think it's all good, and last minute, boom. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we get towed in Fargo. at about 9 o'clock in the morning, we're coming into Fargo between 9:30 and 10. We get there, we get dropped off, and the repair service, the wrecker rather, says, okay, I guess they'll get to it around 9 o'clock on Monday. And I'm like, what? What just happened here? No, I need it done today. And he looked at me and he's like, oh, well, these kind of places are closed on Sunday. So that cost me an extra night of a hotel bill on top of what the cost of the repair was going to be. Now, my husband is still at the conference, and he's got to, actually, Amber and John, on the PT Cruiser, the timing belt happens to be a real big, kind of like one of those nightmare parts to get to, because you can't just remove the cover. Hi, Demeyer. Welcome to the chat. It's good to see you. So, getting to that timing belt was a huge job. And so that's why they couldn't inspect it visually before we left. So we wound up spending 3 nights in a hotel at $90-something a night. And John and Amber says, oh, I was thinking about your van. Yeah, actually, this was the first time we drove up, and I just took the PT Cruiser, which was probably, in retrospect, it was fun, but it was not the best maybe decision that I could have made. And Tanya, one of the things about it is that you're stuck when this happens. You have to go to the hotel closest to where the repair is because you have to be able to walk to get there. Pet says, front half of the engine has to come off for the timing belt. It's not the belt seen from under the hood. You got it, Pet. It's a nightmare on this one. Dr. Dan 3 just arrived. Hi, Dr. Dan 3. How are you? We're talking about travel, but we're also open to talking about pretty much whatever else. So I thought I had enough put in reserve. Come to find out, I did not. I had enough that I could either pay the repair bill or the hotel and buy food because it was a very crazy situation. And keep in mind, my husband was at a conference and I was waiting on him to pick up that check, get out of the conference, and get back home and deposit it in the bank. Because when he put the money in the bank, I would have instant access to it. So you always want to keep some money in reserve just in case that you can access. Because let me tell you, the next 2 times I drove to Alaska, I made sure I had everything in the bank and also on me. And Amber and John is saying, Pet, Gayle and I ate at the Golden Corral, talking about travel oil. Her husband and my husband has the same name. And Amber and John is saying, hi, doctor. Maya's in. Hi, Maya. Oh, Happy New Year, Southern Sister. It's good to see you. Welcome into the chat. Dr. Dan said, I enjoyed your video at the Lincoln Birth Home. Have you ever been to the Lincoln Home in Springfield, Illinois? No, I started to go, but it was not open. I have this habit or the bad luck of going to some of these places and finding out they've just closed or they haven't opened yet. Because usually I'm on a big trip. In this case, it was a mission trip. So I planned as many places to stop as I could. That's actually on my list to go back. I've done the birthplace there, and I've done, there's a huge statue on an interstate. I've done that. I've been to Harrogate, Tennessee, which has a lot of Lincoln for me, and I've spoken at the Lincoln Memorial, so I have to get there. And Pet Monster says, Lincoln Home scared me. Wax statues freaked me out. LOL, saw it as a kid. And DeMeyer is saying, Dr. Dan, I grew up there, I've been there. That is the coolest thing. And Dr. Dan says, I've been there also and to where he's buried. That is cool. that's cool. Lincoln is a very interesting person, of course, huge in history, and I think he's becoming more relevant today. I've gotten a fair amount of traffic to that video. The watch time was really high. Amber and John says, Pat, Gayle, and John are so worth the travel to go see. They've been a blessing in our lives. We can't ask for better friends. Aw, Amber, that's so sweet. And DeMeyer says, I left Illinois, criminal state. And Pat says, the Lincoln Monument is breathtaking as well. Yes, it is. It is indeed. You know, I think that the U.S. is really, I think we're well blessed to have places like this that we can go. And also, you know, state parks, national parks, these things all fit with a budget vacation. And John says, Amber and John, you guys are great. And they are. They are indeed. Thank you for saying that, Amber. I think you were worth the trip, too. Yep. And Amber and John said, aw, John, gosh. Yep, it's true. John says, I love historic sites. And Pat says, I second that, John. You're awesome. DeMeyer says they are taking statues down and taking history away. Yeah, I think they are. You know, my big concern with that is that, you know, if those markers aren't there, I think we run the risk of forgetting it happened and then even get to the point where we can deny it happened. And Maya says, hello, John Crabtree. So, but, and that may make it more important, you know, when you look at a trip planning perspective. If you want to see some of those monuments, you know, that may make your trip planning a little bit more important on the urgency to get there. And John says, remembering is not the same as approving. I wholeheartedly, 110,000% back that statement. But, you know, I even noticed, and I'm just going to pick on the Alaska Highway, that things change so much, so fast. And so not only do monuments change, and of course in the U.S. we're removing them, but, for example, on the Alaska Highway, there are towns that weren't there 2 years ago. So in this case, it's not the monuments that are coming down, but the visibility of the animals and the atmosphere that people think of when they drive to Alaska and they're on the Alaska Highway. Tanya says, when I go to Concordia, Kansas to get my service dog, there's a museum about the orphan trained children Mom and I want to see. I would encourage you to do that. Now, when you go to these places, you know, talking about budget, a lot of places, or at least some, have discounts, not just for senior citizens, but once in a while you'll find a place that discounts for disabilities. And if you go to a larger city and you're going to take any kind of public transportation, most of the cities with public transportation also have those reduced prices for disabilities. So always, always, always ask. You know, and other discounts people may be able in general to tap into are, of course, AAA, AARP, government, and that government rate can extend to teachers, firefighters, police, not just for like your hidden police stings or anything like that. Okay? And Amber and John are saying it's sad. I love history. I've always loved history. And they are wanting us to forget our Constitution. It's sad when I do that. John's saying hello to Maya. Pet Monster says, I agree, Gayle, never forget. You have a valid point. Some claim that the Holocaust didn't happen. Look at the, quote, fake news situation. Yes, I agree. We can't forget. And yes, Lincoln is more relevant now. DeMeyer says, I'm not feeling well. I went to an abandoned house and the deck steps broke and I fell 4 feet. LOL, just going to listen. Oh my goodness, DeMeyer. Did you break anything? Are you okay? John's saying, DeMeyer, I hope you heal quickly. I'm going to echo that. Absolutely echo that. And people, don't forget, if you're in the chat, don't forget to give me a big like and make sure you subscribe, okay? That really helps. If you click that bell, you're getting all the instant notifications that YouTube remembers to send. And DeMeyer says, oh no, my whole right side is bruised, thanks. I am glad you did not break something. And Pet Monster says, get well, man, ouch. DeMeyer says, thanks, John and Tanya. I did get it on video, though. There you go. You got to save the video first, right? Sumbles said, click that silver bell. It's now ringing lovely tunes in my ears. There you go. Amber and John Homestead says, get bitter soon. And DeMeyer says, I will be listening. Thank you very much. And of course, if you have not subscribed, please click that button and go ahead and join my channel. Be part of the family here on this channel, because I do think of all of my YouTube subscribers as being not just a community, but a family. And I think Pet Monster would probably echo that on his channel. And you guys too. Pet Monster says, I hit like. And you guys, if you're not familiar with Pet Monster, go see his channel. Absolutely, go check the channel. And you guys who are in the chat, if you have channels, go connect with the people. Go check out channels, watch videos. And Pet Monster says, create not hate. We love every one of you mothers. Pet Monster, love you too. And Pet Monster says, I think I bet you to like the button. I beat you to the like button. I win. And John says, bye, Pet. Take care. I didn't even know it was a contest to hit the like button. Amber should have told me. I could have said, hey, everybody who clicks like in the next 10 seconds gets bragging rights. Southern Yankee Homestead. Hello, everyone. I smashed the like button. Thank you, Southern Yankee. Thank you, Tanya, too. Thank you. How are you doing today, Southern Yankee? Symbol said, I hit the like button when I joined. Do you give me bragging rights? Ha ha. Yes, I do. You guys can all have bragging rights. How's that? So, thank you.
What type of dress do you like for that Greek salad now?
Hold on a second. Greek on the side, please.
You did tell me that.
So I guess this may wind up being a foodie video too. So, we were talking about budget, and certainly Pet Monster had the idea of just showing up at the airport and going off. Tanya says, give me fried mushrooms. So, okay, Tanya, here's your fried mushroom.
Smell-o-vision.
Dr. Dan 3 says, where are you eating at? I'm actually at a gondolier in Knoxville, right on the edge of Knoxville and Farragut. So, and John's saying hi to Southern Yankees. So there you go. So going back to vacation, because I know spring break's coming up, and today we're going to we always kind of talk about everything. So we go down these rabbit trails. I'll do that, hippity hoppity. But of course, we can also fuss about the whole Google demonetization if you want to. Zumble's Gaming Adventures said, smell vision. Is that what he said? Yes, it is. It is indeed. I wasn't sure you guys could hear that. But yep. And John says yes. Yeah. So with the vacations, as I said for my horror story, have some funds that you have access to. Plan that budget, look at that. And, like I said, some of the monuments, the national parks, BLM, national monuments, state parks. Those are all usually going to be within that budget atmosphere, if you would, and have a lot of really neat things. Texas Service Dog Team, hello and welcome. And Texas, you gave me your phone number and I had to write it down, and I wrote that down incorrectly. If you could email me at Gayle, Gayle, at GayleCrabtree.com, I'll get right back with you as soon as I can. We had mentioned doing a live stream together because I'm always up for joint live streams. Hello, people. Mom's Channel is in. Hi, Mom's Channel. It's good to see you. And Tanya's saying hi, Mo. So that's awesome. But even with the national parks, a lot of them give discounts. I think I've mentioned before the different passes, and with the disability pass, if you have that one, you also get like 50% off of camping. And sometimes they'll extend that to some of the lodges. It's a park by park basis. So, and also if you have that access pass for federal parks, some parks, at least in Tennessee, will also give you a discount. And Barrow Boy Woods has entered. Hi, Barrow Boy. It's nice to see you. Welcome. Mom's Channel says, hi, everyone. I am really bad at live stream. It's okay. We're just glad you're here. Don't you worry about it. The more you live stream, the more you get better at it. Barrow Boy Woods says, Gayle Crabtree, how are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And Tanya says, how are they for wheelchairs and scooters? Talking about national parks. Well, most of the national parks are ADA compliant. So wheelchairs and walkers are something that they plan for. Now, I say most because there are exceptions to that. And if it's a national monument that was developed prior to the ADA laws coming in effect, they don't have to be compliant. If there's also, if it would change the building, or usually buildings, to the point where that building is going to lose historic value, those also are typically not ADA compliant, because to put steps or an elevator in some of the historic buildings that are run by the National Park Service, they can't do that. But it's been my experience that just about all of them are ADA compliant, and even the ones like the houses that were not ADA compliant often have actually, I think I'm just going to stick my neck out and say that all the ones that I've been to have had gardens that you can enjoy in a lower level of the houses, and things like that, that were ADA compliant. Amber and John says, Gayle, there's a park I think you may be interested in going to before summer is over. Ooh, which one? Which one? I'm always up for parks. The other thing about parks is they also often have a museum. And Amber is suggesting DeSoto Falls Park in Alabama. I'm going to make a sticky note. I'm the sticky note queen. And John says that sounds right about the ADA. And that's something I always try to put in with my videos, is either photos or a mention of the ADA compliance. That way, you can see and get an idea of what's ADA and what's not. Texas Service Dog Team, where'd you go? There you go. Says, I can chat on the live stream with my phone, but don't see the chat function on my laptop. Is there something I'm doing wrong? If you're on the laptop, it should be at the bottom, like where you would leave a comment. If it's not there, then look on the right. I think I have it set to come on underneath. Check that out. Unfortunately, the one thing about the restaurant here is they do not have Wi-Fi, so I'm having to do it from my phone, so I can't check. But it's supposed to be set up. And Texas Service Dog Team says, oh, I see it now. It's on the right side. Thanks. There you go. And going back to ADA, I probably need to do a stream just on ADA. So, Tanya, I'm glad that you're asking about that. Amber and John Homestead says the park even offers kayaking, which is totally cool. But I don't do so well in canoes. I have not tried a kayak, but given my canoe experiences, I better take lessons before I try that. Let me just say that. But going back to ADA compliance on the parks, service dogs are often allowed in the parks. They just have to be careful in some parks because of other wildlife that's around. I may have mentioned before that like bears and dogs are natural antagonists, and John is saying we fell over immediately, which is true with the canoe. But bears and dogs are known antagonists. So some parks where if you have a quiet walkway, you can take the dogs on that, but you may not be able to take them on a hike. Or if you want to go into the back country for hiking, you have to let them know when you get a permit, because in some areas it's just flat too dangerous. Not all of them are like that. Smoky Mountains, the parks are like that. Out in Arizona, if you go to the Grand Canyon, the Painted Desert, you have to watch it there. Valley of Fires, when we were in New Mexico, you had to stay on the walkway. Now, partially because, like in Texas, you have like rattlesnakes to watch out for, and some dogs, like mine, love sticking their noses into those nice little shady crevices. And of course, some of the other wildlife that's out there. So you kind of have to watch that. Tanya said, I'd like to know more about ADA, but reading due to low vision makes it hard. Totally get you on that. I have a friend who's actually has some vision problems also. Tanya said, did you see Texas Service Dog Team says to Tanya, did you see my video about not being able to see well in the movie theater? I can relate to your problem. Movie theaters, a lot of people love going to movies. I do too, but it can be actually a pretty dangerous place if you have mobility issues. If you have a service dog to help you with mobility issues, you have to kind of be careful with that, because in a dark theater, somebody may not see your service animal and may step on him. He may get scared because of what's on the movie and be very distracted and unable to help you. And certainly, like I said, the mobility issues, sight issues, hearing issues. If you get, like one person I was talking to that had a hearing issue at a movie said sometimes he goes to movie and what he hears, where where people get like some dialogue and things on like around car crashes and things like that. All he hears is the boom, boom, boom. So yeah, movies are great. Movie theaters are great, but they can be dangerous. And that's something to know and realize, because if you go on a vacation and let's say you go to a movie theater, let's say you go to a museum and there's an IMAX theater related, those movies are some of the least expensive movies on the planet because they're tied in with the museum. Of course, they're going to be usually educational and so forth. So it's always worth having a conversation with staff. If you go to a movie, which is fabulous, if you go to a museum, which is fabulous for budget travel, especially as more museums start not charging fees, but allowing you to just make a donation of whatever you can afford. If you go into a movie, always check and have a conversation with the staff before you go in about, tell me about your ADA compliance. Is there something I need to watch out for as far as steps? Sometimes they will help you with steps. Sometimes they'll have a special entrance, but they have usually got some type of capability to help you. But here's the thing, unless you ask, you don't know. And if you're traveling, you're in a different place. So it's not going to be something that you're familiar with. So you will need to usually ask about that. Whereas if you're at home, once you go to a movie theater, you have the specific one that you like to go to, so you know all the ins and outs. Not so when you're traveling. So always have that conversation. And Tanya says, let me back up here. Tanya says, I did Texas. I've done the same. And Texas says it can be entertaining at times. Tanya says, I love movies, but dark triggers my PTSD. Totally understand that as somebody that's dealt with PTSD for many years. Texas Service Dog Team says, good points. Tanya says, oh yes, I learned to laugh at myself. And Tanya says, I even sleep with lights in my room. Gotcha. And that, Tanya, probably when you get your service dog, just knowing he's there, even if he's not specifically trained yet to help with PTSD, just the fact that you have him there is a help. And if they haven't trained him to help you with PTSD, go ahead and talk to that agency because they can be a huge help. That's part of why so many veterans are using service dogs because, of course, you guys know you can't feed service dogs, my opinion. And Tanya says they are doing so. Good for you. Good for you. And I could do a whole live stream on service dogs, and I actually have that kind of in the pipeline as far as specifically service dogs and travel. And that's something else too. People who have disabilities tend to not have as much disposable income as some others. Texas Service Dog Team says, be right back. Thank you, Texas. So that's in those situations, it's a little bit more important to look at your budget travel and really plan. Also, I would suggest picking out one thing that you really, really want to do above all else. There's sometimes this one thing that'll kind of make or break a trip. Tanya says, and I lost it, there it is, I'm the type I have to have someone near due to fear. We've also got some pretty hefty health problems that are going to lead into that. So that totally makes sense to me. And then also, in addition to that, having the PTSD, which brings about anxiety and so forth. It's just part and parcel of the whole PTSD package, so to speak. That makes a difference. So, if you have PTSD, one of the things that I found is that going to parks, national parks, state parks, etc., it's a little bit easier to deal with those if you have PTSD, because not only are they less expensive, which makes them much better in a lot of regards, budget-wise, but they also tend to have, I've noticed, a more open floor plan on a lot of the museums, and so that really helps. Southern Yankee Homestead Journey says, I would love to get my wife a service dog. Of course, you've seen my videos with Tomlin. Not only do I think he's the cutest service dog in the world, but I'm totally sold on service dogs. Absolutely, totally sold on service dogs. You run into problems sometimes with acceptance, but and that's something else too. And we'll probably talk about this more in depth when we do the travel service dog live stream. But people at state parks tend to be, how do I put this nicely, a little bit more accepting, because they're on a little bit different education level, because parks don't have like the electronics and the roller coasters and things like that draw kids. So you tend to have a little bit older people going, like your older elementary age, or you have your parents in strollers. And so I found that both of those age groups tend to be a little more accepting of service dogs, and not so much bombarding you with the whole, can I pet your service dog? And so I like that. Of course, Walt Disney World is also a fabulous place to go, even though it's a theme park. Southern Yankee Homestead says, yes, we're looking into it. She's a disabled veteran. There you go. Tanya says, I want to go to Gettysburg. Love learning about the Civil War. Very good. Very good. But the parks, like I said, the nice thing about the parks, especially if you've got PTSD, I know a lot of veterans also have that in addition to the budgetary considerations. The open floor plan on most of the parks, that's very helpful. And of course, outdoors, you got the whole wide, beautiful surroundings of nature and being outside. So you're not closed in, you're not boxed in. And that helps too. So on picking a vacation destination, look at budget, look at total of what you like to do, what are your activities that you like to do, look at your make or break thing, and then have the one thing that you have to do, and then kind of focus your trip around that. Make sure you get that during the times when it's open. Check into military discounts, disabled discounts, senior citizens, and so forth. Some places have them and some places don't. Student discounts. If you have a membership to like a science center, that transfers over to a lot of science centers. Same thing with zoos and so forth. And Tanya says, good luck to Southern Yankee Homestead, who also says, thanks, Tanya Lambert. So there you go. But look at your one make or break thing and then kind of plan your trip all around it, because there's nothing worse than putting your money together to try to make this trip happen, only to find out that the place you really want to go to is closed for the season renovations. You get there after 5 o'clock and so forth. that's something I would recommend. Of course, if your last name's Rockefeller and you have unlimited funds, who cares? You can go back as much as you want or even buy the place. Okay, I see the live stream's approaching 45 minutes. I usually go about an hour on the live streams because I pop them up later as a podcast onto SoundCloud. So for those people who burn them to a CD, they really need like an hour block. Probably about 10 more minutes. So what questions do you guys have? And I don't ask this rhetorically. In my videos, when I say leave a comment down below, I actually want to know. So please do ask questions, leave comments. And like I said, if we have to go down a rabbit trail, I'm good with that on the live streams and so forth. Where are some of the places that you guys are interested in traveling to? Okay. I'm hearing crickets. John Crabtree says, Disney World. Tanya says, do you all buckle your dogs in when traveling? No, actually, Tanya, I don't. But when I'm traveling, I'm usually in the van. So he has lots of space and we don't have a huge number of buckles. Also, Tomlin is not a dog that does well with buckles. So start out young and get him acclimated to that. He likes lounging and having like the entire back seat. Tanya says we have a van. Good for you. Now, if you've got enough buckles, then go for it and start young. Like if they haven't already acclimated him to buckles and you're going to use a buckle, do that like the instant you get him. Or her. Let me not be sexist here. Whoa. Let me also not drop my computer and break it. It's not a baking dish, I don't. And that's John Crabtree says having space in the van is great. Yes, it is. And of course, my reference to the baking dish, if you haven't seen the video on the day I almost burned the house down, go ahead and watch that. This may be my last cooking experience. Tanya says, I did, LOL. There you go. Would you like to know why we're eating out today? It's because I still haven't cleaned the oven. I got to make sure I get every little shard of glass. John Crabtree says, the party mix episode was epic. And that's actually, it was not like planned or acting or anything like that. I had set out to do my first ever food video thing and may never try that again. Tanya also liked it. And I do have to say, when it comes to travel food, I always take food on the travels because it's less expensive than buying stuff. For example, I looked at a product a few weeks ago at a truck stop. I had forgotten my shampoo, and I thought, well, I'm at the truck stop. I'm not going to try to go hunt a Walmart down. So the shampoo that I normally pay 97 cents for at Walmart was, I kid you not, $3.99. I found a Walmart. And so I always try to take food with us. Also, if you're a diabetic, I'm just going to toss it out, and we'll talk about this more if we do an ADA travel live stream. If you're diabetic, having your own food, you can eat when you're ready. You're not like you're in the middle of nowhere and you're having to hunt a restaurant down. you can just reach into that cooler and get whatever you need, so you can keep your schedule a little bit better. And I found that to be helpful. Tanya says, I may do that due to having weight loss surgery and will be on a limited type of eating. And John is saying, yes, save money wherever you can. Good for you guys on both. And, one of the foods that we like to take is party mix. Because if you can get the stuff on sale, the mixes, and you put the pretzel with it, it can go for days. So that's good. That helps. And, of course, the all-important coupons. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and put a wrap on this, just because of making sure we get underneath the 1 hour time limit. Now, on Sundays, when I do overcoming obstacles, then we'll continue way past the 1 hour and kind of go unlimited. We'll talk about the obstacles, and then we'll definitely go down those rabbit trails. Is there anything anybody else wants to say before we sign off today? John said it sounds good. Okay, well, let me tell you guys, thanks for coming in. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We have some new faces in. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for all the likes. If you see this later, or if you hear it on the podcast and come back in to join us later, then make sure you pop a like on there, and definitely subscribe and hit that bell to join the family, channel family. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all out, about, and online. So take care. Bye.